Hey everyone, welcome back to SnowRunner. I believe this is episode 6 of this series. It's been a long series so far. It's been good though. I'm excited to have you back into this video. Let's talk about some stuff again today because that's just what I do around here. Yeah, maybe today's topic will be an interesting one for you. We're going to be discussing favorites and also hobbies and all sorts of things. This is a multi-topic video, as disorganized as usual, because that's just who I am. But anyway, I do want to try to grab this trailer. I don't think it's... Oh jeez, I'm starting to use different controls here. I don't think it's going to be as easy as it seems, so let's just hook onto this and drag it a little bit, and I don't know, maybe I can pull it out of this a little bit. Yeah, I don't think this plan is actually going to work, unfortunately. Let's go back and get a truck that has a hitch, and we'll pull this thing out for real. So yeah, today's topic of choice is hobbies, and I kind of came up with this idea based on a discussion that was going on in the Discord about watches, and I mean, I weighed in on it a little bit, but I figured we may as well have a full-on discussion about this now, because I feel like it really does relate well to cars and things, and also favorites, because when something is your favorite, you're generally willing to give up a little bit more for it. And usually that more is money. Money kind of... Hobbies are expensive, so money is really the driving factor. I don't really understand why people spend so much money on watches. I don't really understand why people spend so much money on shoes. I don't really understand why anyone would spend money on, like, pretty much anything that I'm not interested in. And that's kind of the key aspect here, that comes to mind, because oftentimes I'll see people like, why would you spend so much money on X? But the reality is just because they're not particularly interested in whatever that is. So they don't understand. How could they understand how much you like something if they don't like it themselves? And it sort of relates to cars as well. Every discussion on this channel kind of comes back to cars in some aspect. Because, like, for a lot of people, cars are just transportation. It's just a means to get somewhere, and that's it. It's like, I want to get to work every day reliably, and I want to do it as cheap as possible. I'm going to buy a Mitsubishi Mirage or something like that. And I think the reality is, for most of us, unless you have a specific use case you need a better car for, then you could probably get by with a Mitsubishi Mirage. I'm not saying that the Mirage is a bad car or anything like that. My use of it in this case is literally just to say it's basic, it's simple, it is the car for everyone, and that's a good thing. Like, we need cars like that. Not every car can be ridiculously expensive, at least not in a stable economy. But it's like, why would you buy an S-Class or something like that when you can get by on a car that's 10% of the price and will do the same thing? And it's the same way with watches. I'm like, why would you spend even $1,000 on a watch when you can get one for $5 and it'll do the same thing? Like, it's telling time, right? That's all. If that's all you care about, then that makes a lot of sense. But obviously, for people who like watches, there's a distinction between those two things. And it's the same way with cars. It's like, obviously, we know cars, we care about cars. I say we because I feel like if you're on this channel, you probably know and care about cars. So you'll think like S-Class, that's usually worth money. That's for somebody who has money. Generally, it could be a limo or something like that. Sure, you could get by with a Mirage, but there's a certain prestige that comes with an S-Class. And it'd be the same way with watches versus like a G-Shock. Actually, I think those are fairly expensive, but they didn't used to be. But a G-Shock versus a Rolex, it's like a different class or something like that. Not saying that the Mirage is like a G-Shock. I think the Mirage is more like a Timex. It's the same way with shoes. It's the same way with anything. Like, personally, I don't care about shoes really at all. I literally just buy Vans. Anytime my shoes are done, I just get a new pair of Vans, and then I wear them until they're done. Usually that takes like 5 years, and then I buy another $30 pair of Vans, and I'm good for another 5 years. Like, that's what I do with shoes. But for some people, sneakerheads specifically, they love shoes. They wear them like crazy, and yeah, that's just what it is. I might not understand it, but that's what they're into. And so comes the discussion of favorites, and it also comes the discussion of what is too much, what is too excessive. So let me pose the question to you: what's your favorite hobby? What is your favorite aspect of that hobby and why? I'll go first. I think, well, it's really hard to lay down my favorite hobby, but I think the thing that I enjoy doing the most in my free time, which is very limited, is making these YouTube videos, and I really do enjoy this. But if I was to separate it from that specifically, then I would say just cars, working on cars, thinking about cars, dreaming about cars. I like cars. Oh no, it's morning now. But yeah, I don't actually know everything about cars. I think some of you probably figured that out with my automation videos. I might talk about things and be incorrect at times, but that doesn't mean I'm not a car enthusiast. I am a bit of a car nerd, actually. And I know too much in specific details about some weird cars, and I don't know what else I can say to endorse myself in that way. My favorite aspect of cars is probably just the mechanical nature of them, and also the varying aspects of things that you can do with cars. Like, cars in a general sense means a lot of different things. It's like if I say civil engineering or something like that, which is another topic I tend to know a bit about. There's a wide array of things that are involved with that. You can say one thing and it can allude to a lot of other things. There's so many different aspects and avenues of cars to explore that I feel like I will probably spend my entire life still interested in cars and be able to hit different things every single time I need something to refresh. That's kind of how I feel about it. Like right now I'm playing a video game about trucks and swamps and things, but this is still car related, and it's still within the car spectrum of things, and it's still part of my hobby, I guess. So yeah, I mean, I could be playing games, I could be out there doing stuff, working on things, building stuff. It's all under the same umbrella. I think that's what I like about cars the most, is just how many varying things you can do with it, and the sort of adaptability of things and mechanical nature of it. I don't know. It's hard to describe. But then, because cars is such a deep and layered topic, you can get even deeper than that, because I can have favorites within that section as well. Favorites within the hobby of that's already my favorite. And the layers just keep getting deeper and deeper. Like, my favorite car is, and has been for a long time, the Nissan Skyline GTR R33. And that's a bit of an unattainable dream car. I don't think I'll ever get the chance to own one, but that is my dream car. But then again, I have another list of favorites specifically for cars that are a little bit more obtainable, and I really like that list because then I can think about it as like, maybe I can actually get here one day. So on that list would be something like an Evo 10, maybe an Evo 9, although those are a little bit unobtainable. They didn't make them for very long here. I've always wanted to import a car from Japan, but then I am scared of the insurance and things, the aspects of it that are unknown. Obviously, I'd like to do it, but here in Ontario, it's prohibitively, not even saying that word correctly, but it's crazy expensive for insurance for right-hand drive cars, so that's kind of almost out of the question. But then there's so many other aspects of things. There's little cars here and there that I'm interested in, and then, I don't know, the list can go on and on and on. As a bit of a secondary thing, I would say my second hobby is probably still car related, and that's like fabrication and building stuff. RCs as well, still within car related stuff. Man, oh man, the car stuff and vehicle stuff and everything in that aspect just runs so deep in me, it's kind of ridiculous. I'm kind of somebody who has way too much on the go, like way too many hobbies, way too many things that I want to do and projects and things, and that really does creep up a lot on me a lot of the time, where I get anxious about it as well, which isn't great. Now that I think about it, as I'm thinking about this more, like, even this YouTube channel, which is a hobby of mine, is car related, obviously, because that's what we're doing right now. I don't think I can escape this. It's just so ingrained in my life. Like, the depth of this is more than I thought it was way back before recording this video. By the way, we are like thoroughly stuck right now. No weight on the back of this truck is not great. Hopefully I can find a good winch point, because otherwise we are going to be stuck here permanently. except for the age-old trick of pull the trailer over to the thing, and then that in itself is a little bit of progress, unless the trailer falls over, in which case, rip. This is the true SnowRunner experience right here. Not much else you can do than just drag things around in the mud. That's pretty much all we got. So why don't I try to go into a little bit more detail about the things that I'm interested in, just for fun, and then if you want to do the same in the comments, that would be great. Just in game, we are like desperately in need of off-road tires for this truck. It is getting to the point where this is going to be my entire life for the rest of this series if we can't get off-road tires. That's not going to make it too easy, is it? But yeah, let's talk about some of my favorite things and why. Just because I find like that could be an interesting aspect of all this. Like, I think why is really the big differentiator between somebody who's interested in something and then somebody who's like interested in something. If you can explain why you're interested in it, then that's just all the better. Okay, now I have to decide which way to go around these trees. Some of my favorite things, let's talk about SnowRunner, because SnowRunner is one of my favorite games. Same thing with BeamNG Drive. There's some things they have in common other than the obvious. But one of the reasons for that, I just think, is that this game is just so ridiculously detailed, and it's in a good way. It's in service to the actual like game itself. It's in service to the simulation, although I wouldn't say that this game is a real like simulation. It is an arcade style simulation in a lot of aspects, but it's one that's thoroughly enjoyable, and it just makes this whole like fantasy of truck driving and getting stuff stuck in the mud just so much better. Physics is a big thing for me. I love physics in games. This game has physics in pretty much every aspect. Like, you can see the terrain that we've destroyed as I've been doing this. All those tracks are mine. That in itself is just extremely cool, and something that back in the old days of when I used to be interested in games, I never thought was really possible. It's hard as a kid to know what the future is going to be like in terms of games and what is realistic in the future. I didn't even imagine something like this at that point. I think that SnowRunner in a weird way is kind of made for me. Like, it's for people who are interested in the weight of heavy machinery, which is like such a niche topic, I guess, and like the physics of things. I don't know. It's just so darn cool. I really like thoroughly enjoy playing this game every 2 weeks. I wish I could play it every week, but I just don't have time to commit to that schedule. But playing it every 2 weeks is one of those like things where when you're apart from it, you grow fonder. It's like distance makes the heart grow fonder, I think is the expression, or something like that. Man, it's playing it in bite-sized times like this really adds to the whole like enjoyment of it in a weird way. There's definitely an aspect of if you get too into something, you can burn yourself out on it, and I have not done that with this game, thankfully. I feel like this game especially is easy to burn out on because of how like tedious it is in a lot of aspects. There is so much to get frustrated about in this game, and for the quick-tempered, I don't think it's going to be good. You have to be patient to play SnowRunner. By the way, we made it out of the swamp, and I'm very thrilled about that. Oh man, that's so good. Alright, let's talk about cars. Let's talk about why I like my favorite cars. Some of the ones I talked about previously, and some other ones as well. There's a distinct like theme to the cars that I tend to like, and I would say that it sort of follows along the lines of Japanese all-wheel drive and turbos. Generally speaking, that's kind of how it goes. There is something that I cannot shake when it comes to favorites in terms of cars and trucks and things, and it's four-wheel drive. I just really like four-wheel drive. I mean, I'm driving a truck right now that has all-wheel drive, which is technically six-wheel drive, which is crazy, especially with the diffs locked. Man, I just love stuff like that. I don't know. I just find it to be way too interesting. I also like how all-wheel drive feels. My first car was a Subaru Impreza Outback Sport, which is a bit of a niche model, but basically it's an Impreza designed in a two-tone color with some fender flares on it, and That's what Outback used to be. It used to be a trim level before they made it its own car. I got used to all-wheel drive pretty early, and I had that car for quite a while. I really enjoyed it, and I wish that it didn't rust away. I actually, if I had, I don't think I would have been able to hold on to it just because of how things were, but if I had a car like that now, I would still have it because I could work on it myself at my own house, in my own garage. But back in the day, I was at my parents' house and I couldn't keep it. So I've always had this like longing for more all-wheel drive cars until I bought my Infinity, and then I bought another Infinity, and I was rear-wheel drive for a while there. At this point in my life, I just think, I don't know, all-wheel drive is such a handy thing where I live that it's kind of hard to ignore. Rear-wheel drive in the snow is doable, but man, there are times where things get sketchy, and I'm extremely grateful that my truck has four-wheel drive. Otherwise, it would probably still be in various ditches on my way to my work. As an example, Christmas this past year was a ridiculous snowstorm where I live, and it was ridiculous. Like the snow was coming down. I think we got 30 centimeters of snow in a short time. Like it was way more snow than the usual. At least in a short span. It was a very intense snowstorm. One of the things I just thought of is we can refuel from the trailer. It's got 2,000 liters in it. Let's just steal a little bit out of that and lighten the trailer up a little bit. The lighter the trailer is, the better. But in this snowstorm, my wife and I were going downtown, not really downtown, but we're going south to go and see my family. And somebody, as we were about to leave, somebody actually got stuck directly outside of our house on our street, which is hilarious. And it was an all-wheel drive SUV that got stuck. It was a CRV, just for clarity. So even normal all-wheel drive vehicles were getting stuck out in the snow. But I kicked my truck into four-wheel drive, and we blasted through the snow for like an hour to get down to where we needed to go to see my family. And I don't think we would have been able to actually do it had I not been driving that vehicle. I do have other stories like that, but I don't know, man. Stuff like that really sells me on all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive and winter tires, especially. Like if you live where I do and you don't have winter tires, then you're crazy. But it's yeah, just things like that, sort of life experiences kind of make these things more valid and interesting to me. Plus, all-wheel drive is just cool, man. GTRs, Evos, oh man, so many cool cars with all-wheel drive. I just can't ignore that kind of stuff. When it comes to foreign cars, Japanese cars, I guess that's kind of I don't know, in a weird way, it's a bit of a family thing. My mom is a Honda lady. She loves Hondas. Back when she was, I think her first car was a black CRX or something, or black Civic Si. She then proceeded to have several black Civics and CRXs in the 80s and 90s. And yeah, when she met my dad, she unfortunately lost one of her last Civic, I guess. She hasn't had one since, to theft and fire. Somebody stole it and burned it. But it's kind of become a bit of a legendary figure in our household, and I know my mom would definitely want to get another one of those cars again. So in a weird way, I actually got my love for Japanese cars from my mother, and also cars in general, rally stuff as well, manual transmissions. My mom is cool. She would definitely want to hear me say that, so shout out to my mom. It's not even Mother's Day, what the heck, she's getting a free shout out today. But my dad is very much a GM guy. He loves GM stuff. No hate there. I like Corvettes and Escalades and things like that, V8s. But man, we had pretty much exclusively GM vehicles growing up, and the ones that my dad would choose ended up being pretty crappy most of the time. So I've kind of been turned off of GM because of the experiences of my family, and that kind of turned me off of American cars in general. Actually, the first American car I ever bought was my truck, and that was last year. I like it, but I'd rather have a Tacoma. I still would. I do also own a Korean car. I'm definitely not exclusively Japanese vehicles, but I mean, I've been to Japan. I've seen the cars themselves in Japan. I just like, uh, I just like that culture. I like the cars themselves and the engineering, and also small cars with turbos and all-wheel drive are very much a thing in Japan. So it's kind of a natural fit for me. Also, we actually made it out of the treacherous swamps there. This is starting to turn out pretty good. I am going to go the long way around because there's no chance we're making it up that goat trail right there with this trailer. Not with this truck. My grandfather is a Mopar guy. He absolutely loves Mopar. It's one of those things. I think if you live in, actually, this is not an exclusive to North America thing, but there's definitely some old guys out there. You'd probably know some who are absolutely sold out on a brand. My great uncle, he used to work for GM, so obviously he's a solid GM guy. Literally will not buy anything else unless it says MX5 on the back. He's GM like bleed in and out type of dude. My grandpa is a Mopar bleed in and out kind of guy, unless it says Audi on the back of it or Volvo. But most of his stuff has always been Mopar. So when it came time for me to get my own thing, I ended up going Subaru because Subaru is just all-wheel drive again. All the Subaru models have all-wheel drive except for the BRZ. But at that point, it was... did the BRZ even exist when I bought my first Subaru? I'm not even sure, to be honest. I'd have to look back at the records there. There's no way I could have afforded one anyway. I was in college. But, yeah. All-wheel drive came standard, Japanese, and slightly unique as well with a Boxer 4. And mine was a 2.5 liter. I remember actually I was working in a lab at this point when I got my first car. And I showed up with it one day, and the guys who were working there... I have to like say this properly because people might take this the wrong way, but I was working in a lab in Toronto, so if you don't know, Toronto is very multicultural, very diverse. Every guy that I was working with was from Afghanistan, and so there's totally different culture, totally different like thoughts on cars and things. So they're like, "Oh, nice car," and then they asked me, "It's like what size of the engine?" And I said 2.5 liters. They're like, "What? 2.5 liters? Are you crazy? The gas?" These guys were all driving like 1 liter vehicles and smaller because they can't wrap their heads around the 2 liter plus for a daily driver and practicality. But I just thought that was really funny back in the day, and honestly, it's still pretty funny. I just wonder what they would think if I showed up now. My truck has a 5.7 liter V8 in it. Like that's just insane to different cultures. For North America, that's normal. I mean, you see there's a lot of vehicles driving around with 6 liters plus, but for these guys, anything over like 2 liters was bananas. We got a little screamer over there. My daughter is she's making some noise, but oh no, you might hear some little grill noises in the background. Speaking of favorite things, my daughter's got to be one of my favorite things, if not my most favorite thing at the moment. She's not even a thing though, she's a lady. She's tiny, but she's still a human. Children are very, they need a lot of attention, so I haven't had a lot of time to really think about my own stuff recently. It's kind of been good actually because, as I said before, being away from something is sometimes what you need to get back into it strong, so I've been not really having a lot of time to be on YouTube. I've kind of not had a lot of time to do anything other than take care of her, and it's been good because when I do get time to do that stuff, it just feels really darn good. Sometimes it's good to take a break. Also, I think we did it. That took so long. One mission for an entire video. Yikes, boys. Well, I'm gonna cap this one off here. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I know I'm a little more scattered than usual. I didn't actually fully plan this video out because I wasn't entirely sure. Oh my goodness, she's going mental. But I gotta go. I'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching, and yeah, more videos to come. Maybe next week we'll have a guest speaker on. See you again soon, boys.